Welcome to COB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharan Raghavan.
So, Sharan, in one of our previous podcasts, we spoke about most of the bigger businesses, global brands, etc. They were also startup once upon a time,
Yeah.
right? And then we outlined some 6 or 7 stages through which a business goes through, on their track to becoming possibly a global brand or a multi-billion-dollar brand. I remember there was the long queue. An important bit there was all about, most of the brands will start as D2C, possibly get to some amount of revenue online, and then all of them feel the need to go offline.
Right.
And Longchew was about building the brand, building the distribution, putting basics in place, which can be leveraged later. I just thought it'll be a good idea if we could dive a bit deeper onto that specific aspect, uncover how to build retail distribution. And this might be interesting for a lot of founders who want to make that transition from online to offline and are possibly either thinking about it or are in initial stages of it.
Right. That's actually a good point to start off, Sudeep, because I meet a lot of entrepreneurs who almost are frightened of doing GT distribution. And D2C, in my opinion, was always going to meet its end of the road very fast. And that's what's largely happening now, because you're not making money online. Your margins aren't great. And after a point, you're also not able to scale. So it is important that brand owners figure a way to scale. And if it's an FMCG brand, you pretty much have to go to GT. That becomes a bit of a mind block. And I am meeting a lot of founders who are in panic mode and just frightened of doing GT distribution.
Yeah, maybe rightfully so.
Yeah, rightfully so, because one, they thought being a D2C brand would circumvent the need for GT distribution. But that's what's come around. It's kind of puts a bit of spanner in their works. And it just looks so big for them, saying, I'm going to compete with all the big brands. And how am I going to do it? Why will anybody keep your product? So let's talk today about how you can get started on GT distribution. How do you take the first step on building a distribution for your brand?
Excellent. I think that's a very useful one to get people started. I'm sure once you get them started with the right fundamentals, then they can all discover their route as they stumble across the finish line. D2C was possibly thought as an antithesis to building distribution, serving consumers directly, etc., etc. And more businesses are realizing in India that there are no online or offline consumers. There are omni-channel consumers. Yeah? There are consumers who buy from anywhere, and online still has some way to go in terms of absolute penetration as well as purchase penetration.
Right.
And hence D2C serves you well till you reach a certain stage. I've also heard of businesses, Sharan, that have been able to, with consistent work, proper marketing fundamentals, they've been able to unlock Amazon and Flipkart flywheels such that they've started making money. Yeah, they've started becoming generic to their category, etc. So it is possible that you can make money, but you will remain limited to a certain amount of consumers. And hence, regardless of whether you're struggling or not, if you're struggling, then obviously, looking at other channels makes sense. If you're not struggling, very good for you. But you have to prepare for the future where, if you have ambitions to make your brand big, you will have to, go to channels where your consumers frequent.
Right.
And which includes, therefore, like Sharan said, GT is general trade, or it is also termed as traditional trade, TT. You might hear these terms during the discussion today. Apart from that, there is something called modern trade, which at least in look and feel of it is modern. Some formats of it don't act as modern as they would like themselves to be.
Right.
So therefore, there is online, there is GT, and then there is MT.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So over to you, Sharan. How do you get started on GT?
The whole question is, how do I get available? Where do I become available? So when you start, you just start very, very locally, either where you live or where you have your depot or your factory. Just start there. It doesn't matter where you start. Just start. And how do you
Mm.
start? Just go walk up to. I mean, the entire piece of this is going to sound ridiculously simple, but that's how simple it is to get started. So just walk up to a few retailers, walk up to a retail store, and ask them if you can showcase your product on their shelves. And obviously, there will be resistance, and you tell them you're giving them 100% of the sale value. And that would come as a shocker when you walk up to a retail store and say, I want to keep my product on your shelf. And whatever sells, you keep all the money. I just want to see my product sell from your shelf. Now, why are you doing that? Because you are now testing your product's viability in this channel. You're testing if the product can sell from the store. And you are leveraging the store's real estate and the traffic of shoppers to that store for your benefit. And in this phase, it's absolutely fine to give them all the money because you can treat it as samples, but the customer should not get it for free. You want to see them paying for it. So put it in the store and see it sell, see how it is selling. Now, yes, the first store you walk into may not allow you. But if you go to 10 stores, it's very unlikely even one will not allow you. So even if you have a 10% hit rate, you're still fine. Start at that store. Just put your
Mm.
stock there and give the retailer all the money that comes from the sale. Just put it there and watch it sell.
Interesting. So this might sound ridiculously simple. Let me try and make it a little more complicated so that people think that it is coming from a profound place. Yeah.
Sure.
Apart from what you said, Sharon, that any store which is close to where you stay or where your depot or your factory is,
Hmm.
one more criteria that I'll possibly add to is wherever you think you have a good chance of success with consumers.
Right.
I remember in one of these sessions that I was taking on growth school,
Hmm.
there was a student who had a business of making some kind of sweet. And when I
Okay.
asked him to describe the sweet to me, they
Hmm.
said that it is quite like Mysore. No, they were making candies which were
Hmm.
quite like Mysore Pak.
Oh,
Yeah. So he had this business. So now he
okay.
said that I want to create distribution. How do I go about doing it? So while I was rallying with him,
Hmm.
came to my head that now if you have a sweet which tastes like Mysore Pak, you would ideally want to test it with consumers who like sweet Mysore Pak.
Right.
This might not replace Mysore Pak, but this will be an additional frequency for them.
Right.
They will not eat Mysore Pak because of health reasons or the kind of uh, fat that it has or sugar that it has. They might substitute it with a toffee, or they might find a different occasion, a gifting occasion,
Right.
or after dinner occasion, etc., etc.
Hmm.
So therefore, while rallying, we realized that okay, wherever there is good sale of Mysore Pak, in that vicinity, try and make this product available.
Right.
So that was one small bit. The second bit is that for all the D2C founders who have had some kind of success online, you would possibly have realized that when you go to a retailer, when you are a completely unknown brand, you
Hmm.
will find significant resistance.
Absolutely.
And while the resistance can be lowered by offering them 100% of the sale, but the money flows only when the consumer picks it up.
Yes.
Yeah, and hence, regardless of what you do, make sure that there is some amount of pull, or you aid some amount of pull in the market.
Right.
Yeah, if you are purely surviving on retailers' efforts to create the sale, that is not going to be sustainable in the long run. If you have ambitions to be available across 3 lakhs, 4 lakh, 5 lakh stores, so I will just add two bits to possibly Sharon what you said.
Absolutely. I think those are very valid points. In fact, the second part takes me to the next point.
Hmm.
But sticking to the first one, saying put it in a store where you have the best chance of selling. It's you can't sell a toothpaste from a stationery store.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it's about being aware. I mean, it's not like you can't sell from a stationery store, but that's not the best place your toothpaste is going to sell from.
Hmm.
Either a pharmacy or a grocery store or a large kirana store, depending on your SKU, what size you're selling at, what price you're selling at. You have to determine which kind of a retail environment is best suited for your product to sell. That much you must discern and place your products in a store where it has the best chance of selling. Absolutely.
Hmm.
And then next, about creating pull, it does not mean advertising. You need
Yeah.
to get your messaging right. Now,
Hmm.
one watch out for a lot of D2C brands is that when you're selling online, the shopper journey is very different. It could be a search led platform, it could be a browse led platform, but are of the people read your message there. People understand a fair bit of what you're trying to tell them. In a general store, in a general trade kirana store, you might not have that facility to communicate everything you want to communicate to them.
Hmm.
So you got to figure a way to amplify your message within the store so that you drive pull for your brand, not
Hmm.
just putting it on the shelf.
Hmm.
Now, this message might also need tweaking versus the message you put online. So watch for it and figure out how to get your message right.
Hmm.
Now, the the next part is to place your product in the right part of the store.
Hmm.
Look at where your competition is placed because you need to be visible to the shopper. You can't wait for the retailer to talk about it because the retailer really has no stake right now other than the space that you're going to occupy in the store.
Hmm.
Place yourself at the right part of the store. Make sure you are seen. Make sure, therefore, your message is at least noticed by the shoppers.
Hmm.
Now, once you've done this, become a salesman in the store.
Hmm. Okay. What does that mean?
Blend into the store. You can't stand outside the store and keep observing what shoppers are doing.
Hmm.
Get into the store, help out within the store, moving other stock, packing stuff for the shoppers. When you do that, and the retailer's usually very happy when he has an extra hand in the store, always.
Hmm.
And it's not a high information sensitive business that he will not let an outsider in. As long as
Hmm.
you're willing to help, he or she will always let you in. And you can watch how they're shopping, watch what they look for, what is the basket that is being purchased in your category. Is your competition being purchased? Is your messaging working? Is the place where you this is where you check for everything you've done so far, right? You check if the place you put the product is working. Is the message working right for them? Are they able to? Or if it's not working also, there is a very very high chance it will not work. So it's not about getting it right the first store you walk into, but about using the first store you walk into to get things right,
Hmm.
make the connections. So when you're observing shoppers, is when you notice, even if it's behind the counter, it doesn't have to be a self-service store. Even if it's behind the counter, you can still watch what they come and ask for, where
Hmm.
their eyes go, what attracts them. Do they come with a planned list and then also do an impulse purchase? Are they picking up your competition? So you watch all this and just observe, just blend into the store.
Hmm.
Now,
Interesting.
this is something that we also spoke about when uh, watching for measuring what you treasure, saying you
Hmm.
just have to watch and observe. Here, the only
Correct.
extension is becoming a part of the store and observing them.
Correct. Correct. I remember in one of the shopper trainings that I had, there
Hmm.
was this 5S model,
Yes,
which is the journey through which a shopper makes the purchase decision, which was I think see, scan, spot, show interest, and select.
I think it's a Cadbury
Correct.
model. That's
Correct.
why
Well,
we've
those
gone
are
through
the
the
only
same.
two. Those are the only two companies that I've worked with, so it has to be Cadbury. So the customer first sees, and then scans the category, hopefully spots your brand, then shows interest in your brand, and finally selects it. So in fact, when you're inside the store and you're closely observing shoppers without seeming intrusive, you will also be able to see consumer behavior vis-a-vis the category as well as the brand, your brand,
Right.
as well as competitor brands. and hence you should be able to create your own hypothesis of whether you are placed in the right category, or you are placed in the right zone in your category itself. So all of that, I think, is very, very valuable information which otherwise nobody else can provide to you.
Absolutely. And I think this 5S shopper journey itself deserves its own episode. But
Yeah.
what you're saying is exactly this. Watch what they're doing, see how they're reacting to different brands and products, and just watch if what you're doing is working and keep tweaking it till it is working.
Thank you for listening to COB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharvana Raghavan. Subscribe and learn more at cobcast.net. That's COBBCAST.net.
Now, the next one is that what if it's just not working for you? No matter where you move your product, no matter what message you put there, what do you do then?
Okay, then how should you solve for it?
Right. Like I said, it's ridiculously simple. So ask permission from the retailer and talk to the shopper who's buying a competition product. Ask them why they're buying it. It could be because of familiarity, it could be because of anything else. But the messaging you put up in the store is to break that familiarity. So what can you do to break that flow? Now, you can actually directly ask them if the message even makes sense to them. If what they feel about your packaging, is it clear enough for them? Are they getting what they're looking for in your pack or in your communication? So this is pretty much a concept testing that you're doing, but you're doing it at a slightly later stage because you've already done your D2C business. And now you are building up data and information at the point of sale to check if your pack and your communication and your placement is working at the point of sale. And there will be feedback. And people, once they know you are trying to sell something, putting an honest effort, shoppers usually give you very clear feedback. Now, you don't have to take all of it. If you think something doesn't make sense, it's fine. But you need to know what is right and what is wrong in the feedback you're getting, and be flexible enough, like I said earlier, to change what you've done so far. Don't make it a sunk cost fallacy that I've spent so much money on it so far, now I can't change anything. Consumer is king, shopper is king or queen. So take a call and make the changes you can.
Yeah, the more changes I think you make at this stage, you will possibly be able to, save money as well as problems later in your brand journey.
Absolutely.
The sunk cost fallacy actually does not take into account the future cost you are going to incur and the opportunity cost of not making the change.
Right. Exactly. That's the whole point, right? Now, okay, I'm making it sound super, super simple here, but it's simple, but it isn't easy. And one critical aspect of doing this is that you have to do it yourself. You cannot have salesmen doing it. You can't have sales managers doing it. You can't even have a prospective distributor do this for you. You and your team have to do this firsthand. That's the only way you will get information, because a lot of the information is not documentable. It has to be felt at the point of sale. And you have to make notes, but as much as you make notes, it's about what you feel, what's going on. The abstract elements that you pick up from what's happening with the shopper is what will give you the most insights. And
fair.
Doing it yourself, you will fail, because this is not something you're trained for. So fail again, and keep failing again until you have figured out how to get people to pick up stock from a store. And every time you fail, make notes of why you failed and keep making those changes. And once you've got it right, once you know it's getting picked up by shoppers and it's getting a pull from just in-store merchandising and communication, then you start repeating this from one store to a few other stores.
Hmm.
Ideally, I usually say you need to cover the number of stores in a beat to get hands-on understanding of how your product is moving in different stores.
Hmm.
So about 30 to 40 stores is what you have to replicate this in.
Hmm.
And once you do this at every store, you're still giving your product away for free. But keep a note of how your product is moving at every store. Because
Yeah.
you spend time getting it right in one store, the other stores will not be too difficult. But you've got to monitor them, understand how much is getting sold, where they're getting sold from, and all you're doing is collecting data. And once you've done this across 40 odd stores where you're putting in stock repeatedly and it is selling out from those stores, now you have data. Now you have the confidence that you know your product can sell in general trade. Now,
Yeah.
with this confidence, if you can walk up to a distributor and say, "This is what I want you to invest in, and this is how much I'm going to sell for you," your conversation becomes so much easier.
Easier. Yeah. Yeah.
Because the biggest impediment, like you mentioned, you walk up to a why retailer, even a distributor, and say, "I want you to distribute my product." The distributor is going to say, "No, why should I distribute your product?"
Yeah.
Or they're going to ask for crazy margins, which you can never repeal after a point. Very difficult to reduce distributor margins if you've given it to them at the start. So you got to be careful. You can incentivize the distributor. Don't give them too much margin when you start. But to not do that, you need to have confidence in your product, your brand, and you need to have data to prove why you are confident of it selling out.
Hmm. Hmm. Fair. In fact, if I could just build on that, Sharan,
Mhm.
it makes sense when you said beat. I was just thinking about it. It just rang some bell in my head that when
Right,
if you're trying out limited distribution, you're better off trying it out in a geographically close knit area
right.
because the customers move from shop to shop, and hence at least the customers in that vicinity should feel that your
Mm,
product is available almost everywhere.
right.
It kind of adds to credibility of your brand.
Yeah.
Number two, if you're able to make this work, maybe in 15 or 10, 12 stores out of 40 that you go to,
Mm,
that is good enough number. And number two, because the store is in that geography vicinity, they will also become your endorsers in front of the distributor as well.
absolutely.
Yeah, you can ask the distributor to call them up, check with them what's the data, etc., etc. The distributor will get significant confidence.
Mm.
Yeah, that I think those also become an important lever to create conviction not just in yourself but also in your trade partners.
Yep. And building sponsors, like you said,
Yeah,
you're building sponsors for your brand with the
correct,
retailers who
correct,
originally might have resisted your brand, but are
correct.
now okay to take it in.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Okay, yeah, fair. And second piece that I wanted to say, Sharon, was that since we are talking to people who are already running their brands uh, on D2C platforms
Mhm.
or uh, you know online retailers, they will have many insights as well as hypotheses as well as proven practices
Mm.
of being able to speak to consumers and convert them.
Right.
Therefore, at least when they start, they just need to find an offline manifestation of it.
Mm.
Yeah. Number two, what they will have to get used to is that online you have quite a bit of data of people, and
Mm.
hence you have hope in hell to customize your message to different kind of people.
Right.
Offline store unfortunately doesn't give you that luxury.
That is why they're scared of offline.
Correct. Now that is where you have to have a message which is generic enough,
Mm.
and then you have to rely on other communications which will invoke specific need states in different consumers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the skill to learn when you are, like Sharon was saying, when you're interacting with retailers, when you're interacting with consumers, when you're standing in the stores, see how other brands do this.
Mm.
What would have been their proposition to a mom or a child or a teenager or an adult man versus what they are doing in the store, and that
Yeah.
will possibly give you a good indication of how to play this game.
Absolutely. One disclaimer or a caution or even a warning that I forgot to add is that when I work with some of my clients, the first message that they want to put in the store is 30% off.
Hmm.
So you should not do that, because you do not know if a product is selling for the price you're selling it at if you keep discounting it even in your trial phase.
Hmm.
You are allowed to say any message you want about your brand other than price off discounts. Do not do
Hmm.
cross promotion. You want to see plain vanilla sales for your brand and how you can drive it. Everything else can come after that.
In fact, if you ask the retailer what should I be doing, that's the first thing they will advise you to do. Drop the prices. Yeah, while all of them are well intentioned,
Yeah,
you have to be the brand owner and
right,
thereby decide what is it that you want to do. Uh, as we had said in the past, price off is a great strategy to possibly trigger sampling.
right,
But once the sampling is done, the consumer has picked up your product, then the product will get repeat purchases and repeat usage only because of your proposition or your branding and your delivery on the branding.
right.
Everything else, honestly, is immaterial. So,
Absolutely.
like Sharan said, don't fall in the trap of 30% off, 40% off. Be clear, if it is being done to trigger trials, by all means, please go ahead and do it.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it, right? Pretty simple.
I think it sounds, while it may sound simple, I
Right.
can tell you it is going to be hard.
Of
Uh,
course, it's hard.
yeah.
See,
So,
simple doesn't mean easy.
yeah,
Simple is that it's got a logic flow, and you know what to do as the next step at every step. That's what simple is. Simple doesn't mean it's easy ever.
yeah.
I mean,
It is
building a
the
brand is not easy. Come on.
yeah, it is the long chew after all.
Yes.
So therefore, let me just recount, various steps that you put through, Sharan.
Sure.
We started off by saying that in the life stage of almost all D2C brands, there will come a stage where they would want to unlock general trade distribution, offline distribution, and too often it sounds very formidable, and
Yeah.
hence we're putting across a formula which sounds ridiculously simple as to how should you start your journey of offline distribution. The first point that you made, Sharon, was around starting local, which is about going to stores nearby where you think you have a chance of success, and then your mission in those 30-40 stores in a geographic vicinity is to see your brand selling from their shelf and create some kind of brand presence there. And hence, even if it is required, give the 100% sales to the retailer and don't ask them for any kind of money against it. You treat it as sampling, but make sure that the consumer pays for it, and thereby you are able to see what velocity works for you and how do you create sales for your product. Yeah. Second piece is that now that you have some kind of a relationship going, your product is placed inside, offer yourself as an help to the retailer and thereby gain access to the other side of the counter. That gives you an excellent preview into the consumer journey or the shopper journey inside the shop, and thereby helping you understand what is the decision making matrix, how are you placed on it, your category, your brand, vis-a-vis other categories and other brands. Yeah. So that was the second thing that you spoke about. The third thing that you spoke about was, now this gives you an opportunity to do some kind of a consumer messaging, and ideally don't start off with discounts, though that might be the easiest idea that a lot of people will throw at you. But the core idea is to assist the consumer in their purchase journey such that they buy your brand. Now most of you would be startup founders and would have found some kind of PMF while doing the taking the D2C route. That route itself is very powerful, don't let it go, because the powerful routes are based on human insights, and human insights remain relevant regardless of whether you're going offline or online. Now, that route has to be manifested into some kind of an output which works in an offline distribution. That is something that you have to work towards. Yeah. So, and find a way to get your messaging across inside the shop and see whether that aids your sale or not. Uh, your your opportunity to be inside the store gives you access to one more critical bit. It allows you to interact with the consumers when they are making their purchase, or maybe after they've made their purchase, and that is where you can gain significant insights onto your proposition, your delivery of your product, etc., and thereby it'll help you uh, find out areas which can be improved. And which is where I think, Sharan, this is where you brought in the sunk cost fallacy, where you
Right.
will say that, okay, I've already sold so much, this is the kind of proposition I delivered, I've thought about, basis that I've made all the communication posters, etc., etc. Now changing it would mean all of this going to drain. And that
Right.
is where you cautioned everybody that don't get into that fallacy, because it doesn't take into account your future costs. And hence, if something has to be corrected and it is going to make a material difference to your sale, please go ahead and correct. There's no problem. Further, you made a point, very specific point, Sharan, is that all of this work, which is working with the retailer, going and pitching, then standing inside the shop and doing all of the jobs that you ask them to do, should ideally be done by the founder or their leadership team. Don't outsource it to the lowest person in the chain. Otherwise, you will only get compliance and you will not get any kind of effectiveness. So,
Obviously.
since this entire phase is not about earning profits, not about anything else, it is about learning and creating a sustainable model to support large sales, you would have to get involved. Yeah. And lastly, where you were looking for some kind of a comfort from Sharan, that now that I have given you this strategy, you can go ahead and conquer the world, Vijay Bhav. Sharan very politely put up a disclaimer saying that once you have done it with 40 local stores, it is possible that it might not work. So therefore, it's okay to start over. Yeah. But one important point that he made also was that if you get some kind of a success in these 40 stores, now you need to crack a larger amount of distribution, for which you need distributors. And the distributors, since you've done some amount of sale, there'll be retailers who will be wanting to vouch on your behalf. Use them to create the conviction with the distributor, and go grow organically, but grow slowly, but organically. Yeah.
Right.
That's the broad story, I think, Sharan, you put across. And like Sharan said, it sounds ridiculously simple, but that does not mean that it is easy. This will take significant amount of effort, time, money, etc. But if done well, this can really help you unlock a significant amount of sale and brand equity when it comes to offline stores.
Absolutely. Because the whole point of GT being scary is because it just seems like an ocean.
Hmm.
Yeah, it is just about planning your first steps into that ocean. And
Hmm.
once you get that right, then you'll swim comfortably all over. You just have to know not bite off too much and scare yourself with it. And this is
Hmm.
how, like I said, every large brand today has started like this. You just need to understand this is how it starts and work with it. That's all you need to do. And it's the
Hmm.
most logical, simplest of channels you can sell to. There's no technology to conquer. There is no modern trade negotiations to go through. This is just people. And this is the truth of your business. And if you acknowledge that, you're pretty sorted.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. It helps you build sustainable advantage. And the success formula of sustainable advantage, very simply, is feet on the street, hard work, and persistence. And you'll be surprised that how do big companies, even big companies, global companies, trip over just these three requirements.
Oh, absolutely.
Good. Excellent. This was good fun. Thank you very much, Sharan.
Thank you, Sudeep.
Thank you for listening to COB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharvana Raghavan. Subscribe and learn more at cobcast.net. That's COBBCAST.net.